When you come into the world, we take on the identity of those who are more powerful than us. What we're looking for is a kind of person who is looking for meaning. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here?
Welcome to the Sunday Conversation. I'm Alan Masters. Today, here at Tall Timber Ranch. I decided to do it here to give myself a change of scenery. First part of my life, till I was 20 years old, I grew up in Southern California on the beach. And then my father bought this ranch, Tall Timber Ranch, in 1979. My sister moved up here, and he was talking about making a dude ranch, a place where he could give seminars and help people. And I decided to come up here to visit my sister. And that was about summer of 1980. And so now we're in 40 years later, and we still have the ranch. Hasn't been used for a while. And we're going to start doing seminars again. We're going to have our first seminar late September. We're also going to do an FHU family reunion right here at Tall Timber Ranch for folks that have been here throughout the last 40 years and have wanted to come back. So here it is, beautiful place. As I stand here, I'm watching a woodpecker peck at a tree and the birds flying around. I was looking into the lake and I could see fish, and it's just beautiful. It's very serene. It's a great place to find yourself. Our lives are moving so fast at this point that most of us, we get lost in life. It's just the whirlwind that life can be. So I thought, I just need to take a little break from using the studio and come out here and see what God will put in my heart to say today. At first, I was thinking, well, I need to talk about what's going on in the world. And yes, we do. We need to talk about that a lot. And so maybe that's where I'll start. I realized that when I came here to the ranch many, many years ago, I learned something that has stuck with me for all these 40 years later. I saw a young girl she was just completely insane. And she was here with her parents, and she was confusing, and she was just full of just craziness. And I remember I said to my dad, I said, "Dad, that girl is insane. She's crazy." I said, "It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating." And he says, "Be careful." He said, "Don't be fascinated by insanity. That's the trick. It'll draw you in and it'll pull you down into its insanity." And I thought to myself, wow, yeah, that's true. That's really true. Now, I had my father to go to talk about that. But a lot of people, they see crazy people. It's like the movie The Joker. It's fascinating to watch insanity. There's something about it that draws you in. It's kind of supernatural in an unnatural way, which makes it a little bit fascinating. And so when my dad told me it was dangerous to just see it for what it is, call it for what it is, and walk away, don't get pulled in, I remember thinking to myself, that's wisdom. That's sage advice. So throughout my whole life, when I would meet somebody that was crazy, I remember being able to go, okay, that's crazy, and not be drawn into an argument, drawn into a deep discussion that goes nowhere. It's actually like a lure, and you see a fish chasing a lure, and then when it bites it, it's caught. I don't want to be caught. I don't want to chase a lure. So I just see this insanity for what it is. So how does that relate to today's world? Well, you have to see it for what it is. When you see what's going on in the news, knowing that a lot of it is propaganda depending on which news channel you're watching. But I think the major media channels are all spinning everything. They're sensationalizing everything. The theater part of the news is so important to them. That's how they make their money. Keep your attention on that crazy. So you see it and you go, that's crazy. But you're still fascinated. I'm still fascinated. So I look at it now and I remember what happened here at Tall Timber Ranch. I remember that crazy young girl that was literally, I came to the conclusion she was possessed. My father later on, we had a discussion about it and he says, that's how it works. So I learned that, and now when I see this crazy going on in the news, I see it for what it is. It's crazy. I don't have to convince people it's crazy. I have to know it's crazy. I have to see it's crazy. I have to call it crazy. Defunding the police? Crazy. You know, the riots and them tearing down our historical monuments that is our history. And some of it we need to remember, some of the bad things we need to remember. But allowing them, the rioters, the crazies, to go crazy and make it okay is crazy. I see it for what it is. I call it for what it is. I don't doubt myself. You probably think to yourself, that's crazy. But then you question, you doubt, you wonder, well, but if everybody is going to say it's okay, well, then I'm going to look crazy. Well, to the crazies, you do look crazy. To the crazies, you are crazy. And they have no problem calling you out as crazy. Why don't you have the strength and courage to call them out as crazy? Why don't we all have the courage to call crazy, crazy? Too many of us have been fearful of speaking up. I'm guilty of that. I was guilty of that for years. And I finally one day I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be guilty anymore. I'm not going to be shamed anymore. I'm going to stand up for what I know is right. Because if not now, when? If not now, when we are in the end days of what our world has been, because things are changing and things are not going to get better. They're not going to get better unless, what does it say? Where there is no insight, the people perish. It used to be on the side of my dad's building on Robertson Boulevard in Los Angeles. And I remember saying, you know, where there is no insight, the people perish. I thought, yeah, that's true. And I know that there's a lot of craziness in this world today. And if I don't stand up and call it what it is, evil, crazy, whatever it may be, there's a lot of wickedness. Crazy is just kind of a big overarching term to call it. If you walk around saying to people, oh, that's evil, and that's evil, and that's evil, you know, they start to think you're crazy. So yes, it is evil. But it does go to a point where it is actually beyond crazy. It's wicked. It's evil. And you have to know that. You have to know that. But sometimes you just have to shake your head and say, that's crazy. It's pure evil. And people go, well, what do you mean? And you look at them right in the eye and say, can't you see it for yourself? Because they're going to start to try and make you doubt yourself. And you just shake your head and say, you see it all wrong. You know, I watched Grapes of Wrath last night from 1940. And it was just such a sad, bleak movie. You watch some of these movies of old, and you see what a sad world this can be when people aren't being wise, when they're just like animals, just reacting like animals. And you can say, well, animals aren't evil. No, they're not. And they don't have that higher nature to lean on, that common sense that says, this looks dangerous. They go by their senses. And so maybe they move forward, but you can see them looking very carefully all around. But, you kind of have to use those senses in the world today. I hate to call it the animal senses. You have to use all of your senses. You have to be watching, listening, thinking. You can take a man to wisdom, but you can't make him think. Take a horse to water, can't make him drink. It's the same kind of a thing. I watch Grapes of Wrath, and every time the main character would start to get inquisitive, start to wonder, what's going on? He would go out and get himself in trouble over and over and over again. And you think, watching that character, you think, why is he doing that? Why is he not using a higher wisdom? Because he's only using up to here, animal instinct. When you go from here to here, there's supposed to be a higher nature in your thoughts. If you're not using your higher nature, then you're only destined to deal with that animal nature, which is inquisitive. I hear something. There's something out there. I'm going to go see what it is. But the higher nature says, better take a gun, better take a flashlight, better take somebody else with you to make sure everything's okay. A moment of thoughtfulness, instead of just being like the animal that sees a squirrel and chases after it right in front of a car as it goes across the street. That's the end of that. We have to learn how to use our common sense and our intuition. Common sense not so common anymore, as you see in the world playing out. Intuition, something that's been put away and forgotten about a long time ago in most people. People are not intuitive. People don't seek that intuition. They don't ask their Father in heaven to give them wisdom. I ask for wisdom every day. I ask for wisdom every day. Because if I'm just left to my own devices, I'm never going to be able to make it to where I'm supposed to be. I need to have the guidance from my Father in heaven. I need Him to be my true north. I need Him to show me intuitively and spiritually where I should be today. And I'm not waiting for, a balloon to come down out of the sky with a little note on it. No. I live my day, I go about my day, and then something says, Tall Timber Ranch is a good place to do your talk today. Okay, yeah. Let's get up early and go out to Tall Timber Ranch. It's beautiful. Beautiful out here. So just little knowings. They just float in from above. And people are so impatient. They're so impatient for the answers. If God gave you all the answers to the whole world right now, it'd be too much. It'd be too much. He gives you a lifetime to understand life. And at the very end, maybe you'll have, as the guy said in Caddyshack, total consciousness. But I think it's possible to achieve before we hit the end of our lives. I think my father tapped into a lot of that consciousness, that spiritual realm that is the other dimension. And I feel myself getting closer to it. I feel that God is giving me a lot of understanding. It's probably the best way to say it. Understanding. I don't have to know all the answers. I don't care to know all the answers. I only care to know the answers of the moment, of the day, of the hour, whatever it might be. And I guess part of that is having faith. Part of that is knowing that God will show me the way to go in my life. If I'm walking in His light, if I'm walking with him, he's walking with me, if I'm accepting of him. And I think of my father's life. I thought, on the way here, I was driving, and I thought, my dad didn't have anybody. He didn't have, a father. His father died when he was young. His mother died when he was young. His brother decided that there was too much of a divide between Judaism and Christianity. And my father and his brother, all my life, argued the points of Judaism versus Christianity. And it wasn't a pleasant thing. It's a sad thing that I didn't really get to have an uncle like that in my life. I only had one from my father's side. My mother's side, she had a few brothers that I never met. I don't think I ever met any of them. It was, she married this Jew. You can't win for losing, can you? He's a Jew that believes that Christ is the Son of God, and married a woman from Alabama whose brother says, you married a Jew. You can't win for losing in this world. So we grew up with just my father and my mother and each other, 4 boys and a girl. And a lot of people grow up like that, not having many people in their lives. And even if they do, they're not worth having because they're on a different journey. So at some point, we all have to go it alone. We have to realize and recognize that we are alone. We come into this world alone. We come out of our mother. We literally, at that moment, take our first breath. And I think, maybe the spirit wakens up, because when we're in the womb, you can hear and you can, have little thoughts and things, but you're kind of still in the oven cooking a little bit there, you might say. But when you're born, you open your eyes and you look into your mother's and father's face, and all of a sudden, life begins in that way. Yes, you're alive in the womb too, but life begins in this world at that point. And you're nurtured by your mom and dad, and you grow up, and at a certain point, you leave your parents, and you start your journey as a young man or woman, and you're alone. You get married, and you think, okay, now I'm not alone anymore, but you're still alone. Our journeys are individuals. Individuals. And we have to really reconnect with our spiritual Father in heaven. We have to seek out our spiritual Father in heaven. And there begins another journey, alone. You can take folks with you, like I'm trying to do right now, but we're still alone. We come into the world naked and alone, and you go out of the world pretty much naked and alone. I talked to a friend the other day whose little 12-year-old daughter took her life. I was just thinking how sad, how incredibly sad that is. A life comes to the world and leaves the world. But there's a spirit. The spirit doesn't die. The spirit is the breath of life from the Father in heaven. So I said to her, your daughter is back with her Father in heaven. And now you've been given a new journey. You now must make good for your daughter, for yourself. And there was a lesson in all of this for you. And I thought, wow, that experience woke her up. She said, everything that's happened to me up to this point doesn't matter. The things I used to be afraid of, they're nothing anymore after losing a child. And I thought, isn't that interesting, that paradigm shift? One moment you're afraid, you live in fear. One moment you have anxiety. and something else happens, and all the things that you were afraid of and all the things that you had anxiety and that were eating you alive don't matter, because all of a sudden you rise up to a greater cause. You rise up, and all those things that were all paper tigers to begin with, all the things that hold us in bondage in our minds to begin with, don't matter. Can we make that crossover to the other side of faith, of courage, without some horrible experience in our lives to wake us up? Believe it or not, death, someone close to you, can wake you up when that happens, because such harsh reality. But it shouldn't take death to wake us up. We should search for that higher nature where we are awake. And all the things that make us afraid, all of the paper dragons and paper tigers that are in our head, that are all just nothing, they all go away, because you have such strength of faith and character that all these things disappear. All of these things that we live in fear of, including this pandemic, this global crazy, we're all probably going to get it sooner or later, just like the common cold, just like anything that we get that is a virus type of thing. You get it, your body fights it, and you move on. You get over it. Or unless you are living such a decadent life that your body and your mind are already so far gone that it's the tipping point and takes you. It especially preys on the elderly. They're already weakened. They've lived this whole life not wanting to face the truth. And they're already weak. They're set up. They're ready. And it takes them. Now, my father, the other day, I said, Dad, there's this pandemic thing going on, and it especially preys on older people. He says, I don't care. I'm healthy, I'm strong as an ox. And I said, okay, yes, you are. I said, but maybe Mom is not. Maybe a few other older people that you come in contact are not. And I said, so we're just going to be careful. There's nothing wrong with being careful. See, when you see the clouds coming and moving in, you go, oh, there's a storm coming. I might take an umbrella. Doesn't hurt. I might take an umbrella. And maybe I won't wear open-toed shoes or flip-flops or whatever. Maybe I'll wear some better shoes, because if it rains, I don't want to catch a cold. Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness. So, but I look at my dad's courage. I've looked at his courage for my whole life, and I think that's an unusual man. That is an unusual man with unusual courage, because he has incredible faith. He knows that he doesn't know, but he knows that God will give him the understanding and the wisdom how to deal with it. And even if he makes a mistake, that will lead to another bit of understanding and wisdom. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. You maybe are going to go somewhere that some little thing said you shouldn't go, and then the next thing you know, oops, I've got it. I have friends that have COVID, the Wuhan virus, I'll call it, the Chinese Wuhan, whatever it is, man-made thing. But guess what? So far, so good. They've all recovered. I have one man that was dying, and I've told this story, and I actually had him on the radio. He was a business partner of mine. He was dying, and they wouldn't let his family come to see him. And he called his family crying, saying, I'm going to die, because if they put me on this ventilator, I'm going to die. And I love you. And, they were crying, and he was saying goodbye to his 2 sons and his wife. And they found that he knew Dr. Oz. And so they sent his medical records to Dr. Oz, and he says, let's try this, hydroxychloroquine or whatever it was that nobody was able to get at the time. And sure enough, he was able to get some, because if you know somebody in that way. And sure enough, 2 days later, he walked out of the hospital. If God wants you alive, you're going to be alive. If you want to be alive, you're probably going to muscle through it. The way I've watched my dad muscle through all of his little ailments, all to teach us all something, to teach his children something, and to teach his other family, which includes you, something. We've all seen him for years. We know more about health today than we ever have, and we're starting to learn about all these things, the benzodiazepine and all the horrible drugs that people take that are doing more harm than good. Kind of like what's going on right now in the world with these face masks and all this. It's all part of a bigger plan to control your mind through fear. So yes, if you go to some stores, you probably have to wear a face mask. Okay, I'll wear a face mask if I want to get my favorite cheese at Costco. Yes, I'll do it. But I'm not going to be part of the Marxist world that is trying to take over right now. I'm not going to give in to the fear. I'm not going to give in to the propaganda. Hitler said, if you want to control the people, tell a lie, make it simple, tell it over and over and over again, and they'll eventually believe it. That was Adolf Hitler. That's what they're doing with us right now. More and more people are waking up to this deception about this virus. And the problem is they have to take the most stringent precautions, because they have to treat us all like we are all weakened immune system people that have lived horrible lives, because the masses have. God has given us this beautiful place. We moved a long time ago away from the cities. My father's been saying for half a century, get out of the cities, get out of the cities, get out of the cities. And well, now everybody's getting out of the cities, kind of like the grapes of wrath. They're on their way to wherever points west or east or south or north or wherever it may be to get out of those cities. Is it too late? I don't know. Seems to me like November 3rd is a very important day. And maybe it's time for you to think about what you should be doing just in case, a little precaution. What will the world be like if the evil side of our society wins out and somehow takes this president out in some way? I mean, we've had assassinations. John F. Kennedy, I was 3.5, 4 years old, whatever it was. And I remember watching the TV when my dad was sitting on the floor playing with me. And he said, "And they've shot the president." And I didn't know what that meant. But I remember it as clear as a bell. I remember it. So there are ways beyond voting him out that they can take him out. And our country is gone. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go. We must make a difference. We who can see, who are awake, who are not being fooled, who are not being tempted to believe and to have fear and to live in fear. I get letters from you, emails, comments on the Sunday conversation. I know some of you are mad at me about the mask thing. I get it. You live in fear. You've lived a life that makes you fearful. But see, I lived that way too for a while. I don't live that way anymore. I decided at one point, I thought, what profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul in the process? Nothing, no profit. No profit. I thought, Well, I've tasted riches, I've tasted poor. Riches taste better, but is life about taste? No. Life is about virtues and values, principles, faith, love of family, love of humanity. It's a beautiful place, Tall Timber Ranch. We hope that you'll come and visit. Get out of your surroundings for a few minutes and see what is available to you in this world, beyond the comfort zone. Beyond that comfort zone that you sit in your home, watching the news, eating your comfort food, hoping and praying that all these things that are happening will stop. They aren't going to stop. We have to stop it. And the only way we can stop it is by supporting this president that we have right now, because otherwise, you see what they want. Defund the police. Get rid of our history. Even Oprah Winfrey is involved in changing history. If you don't learn from your history, you're destined to repeat it. Back to my father for a moment. My father did not have a big family to be able to turn to. And maybe you don't. Maybe your family you know is gone the other way. So what do you do? Who do you turn to? You have a handful of friends. But at the end of the day, you really need to turn to your Father in heaven. You really need to love Him with all your heart, your mind, your soul, your strength. Because if it's just a bunch of words, then it's hollow. You have to give up your will to His will. Most of us have such a strong will of what we want. We have a picture in our mind of what life is supposed to look like, a perceived beginning, middle, and end of life. And if you look back, none of it's gone the way it was supposed to. You want to make God laugh? You tell Him your plan. That makes God laugh. You want to be a part of His plan? Stop telling Him your plan. You got to look at that will. You have to look at that will and say, okay, this is what I want to do, God. What do you think? Show me the way. Give me the wisdom. And then wait and watch. Move ahead, but wait and watch. You have to move ahead and wait and watch at the same time. It's a little bit confusing, but you still have to continue living your life. So you have to be conscious and aware and watch and listen. Listen for a spiritual guidance. We have these navigation systems in our car, and we trust them. And every now and then, my navigation system will tell me to turn left, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that I'm supposed to go straight for another 2 blocks. I've been this way before. I put my navigation system on and sometimes leave it on until I get to the destination, just in case I get caught up in thought. I've got to be on time. Navigation system was wrong. Well, the map hadn't been updated or whatever it is. But my navigation system is much more keen. It's connected to the ultimate guidance system. But if you're not listening to it, if you turn it off and you turn down your conscience inside your mind, you turn the volume down and say, oh no, not now, not now. How can you be guided by the guidance system? God put in us a guidance system connected directly to Him. It's better than cell service because it's always there. But He gave you a choice. He gave you a choice to turn off the volume. You have to choose to reconnect. You turn your phone off every now and then. You don't expect it to turn itself back on, do you? Well, maybe you turned off your guidance system, your connection to your Creator. You got to turn it back on. That's what this is all about. Reconnecting to the Father in heaven. And how are you going to get back there without the guidance system? You're going to be driving around in circles and going to all the wrong places, ending up in the wrong places at the wrong time, and that's how you get beat up, taken advantage of, things stolen, your life wasted because you're not connected to the guidance system. Inner guidance, higher thinking to a higher place. What profit a man to gain the whole world, but lose his soul in the process? So, I think I'll keep it short today. Beautiful, crisp morning here. Sunday conversation at Tall Timber Ranch. I'm going to bring in a few people to sit around and talk at the campfire. If we can do a campfire, I think we can. We have a big barbecue and a beautiful gazebo. I got married on this gazebo, 1986. August 3rd, 1986. And what a journey that's been. My daughter got married here just 5 years ago. This ranch has been a wonderful blessing for many, and we hope that it will be for you again. And you can come join us here. If you're interested, please check us out at the foundation. We'll put a thing on the website, family reunion. Also, if you're interested in September, late September, we're going to do a seminar. There will be a fee for that. Of course, for the Sunday or the weekend family reunion, it'll just be $20 for food. Depending on if you want to stay here, we have a few rooms if we can get them ready in time. If you're coming in from a long way, please let us know. We can help you to find accommodations in town, if nothing else. But we're going to have kind of a little mini seminar, you might say, here at Tall Timber Ranch for the family reunion. Bring your kids. Get them out of the house. And if you want to be a part of the seminar in late September, reach out to us. We need to kind of gauge how many people. I think it's going to be very special. My father wants to come. We'll see what's happening with, the world at that time and how he's feeling, and maybe he'll come by and give a little visit. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the foundation. We can't do it without you. I'm beginning my new journey here, 2020. So keep watching.